You're looking for an audio interface and you only have a budget of $200. What do you go with? The Universal Audio Vault 176 or the Scarlett 2i2? Today we're going to see how they're different and which one you should be picking up. What's poppin', gang? I'm 30 Killer Beats, and today we're going to be looking at, if you have a budget of $200, what would you get? The Universal Audio Vault 176 or the Scarlett 2i2. Focusrite literally just updated their Scarlett 2i2 not too long ago, and this is the 4th generation that we have here, and I have it hooked up right now, going in through line in, and I am using some hardware, just so you know. I'm also using their studio kit, where you have the microphone and their headphones, their interface, only for $300, which you might want to look at if you're in this price range. This is only $100 extra, but I'm going to be switching between these interfaces. So if you want to know which one I'm using at the moment, just pay attention to this line right here. So both of these interfaces you can get for $200, and they both offer really great things. If you're looking at getting the Universal Audio Vault, you have the opportunity to use their Spark plugins, which we all know they have some really great and nice plugins to use for mixing and mastering. And now that Universal Audio is offering Spark, you don't have to use DSP power to run those plugins. All right, so if you're looking at getting the Universal Audio Vault, this is the design here. And this, honestly, I think is a very attractive looking interface here, in my opinion. You might not kind of like the style or, how it looks and all that kind of stuff. But, you got your meters right here. You can see exactly how loud everything is. You got your gain, which actually everything feels extremely sturdy. And it somewhat feels like all of their other interfaces, you know what I'm saying? You got your vintage button right here if you want to add some vintage harmonics and stuff like that. You got your compressor in here. You can change the opportunity from different fonts and stuff like that. You got your vintage button right here, which basically gives you like a vintage drive kind of sound. You also have 1176 compressor in here, which is pretty crazy to add that into an interface, but I think that's really, really, really dope. And you get the opportunity to change from different presets, from vocal, guitar, fast preset, fast compressor, or just turn it off, you know what I'm saying? So this is just pressing this button changes how the compressor sounds. And you have your direct button right here for direct monitoring. In the front, you got your XLR inputs right here, line level in, 48 power, instrument level, volume knob, headphone. And in the back here, you got your monitor out, mini inputs. You got your power, which is like what is this? Like a DC circle thing. You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about this in a minute. And then you got your USB-C to connect it to your computer. All right, so now I'm switched over to the Universal Audio Vault's preamp. If you guys want to hear the differences between the preamps, both of these interfaces, the gain knobs are turned all the way down, so it doesn't matter exactly where the volume gain is, especially when I'm going line in. But this still gives you a clear representation of the line in or the preamps on each of these interfaces. So let's just look at the design of the new Scarlett here, which has a very new updated design where you have new buttons here. You got a select button where you can select which you want to operate. You got your 48 power right here. You got your instrument right there. You got your auto gain, which auto adjust your gain to a better level so you don't get distortion, which is really great for beginners. You also get a safe button, which basically auto adjusts your gain. So if you're clipping or you're getting distortion, it'll turn it down, but it won't turn it up. You also have an air button right here, which basically gives you a little bit more high end and presence, which is great as well if you really need that. And these buttons and everything feel great. They do feel better than they did in the past. Both of these interfaces don't have that issue in the past where, if you turn the volume up and down, you get that little crackling sound, which I used to have a lot of issues with in the past with the Scarlett 2i2, but you don't have that issue now anymore. Now, you have your XLR inputs right here in the back if you need those inputs, and your main outs in the back right there. And you have your 5-volt power in here if you want to plug this into a wall, if you need extra power. And I do like this better on the Scarlett, the fact that this is a USB-C port instead of like the little circle thing that I showed you here on the Vault. It does come with a cord for this, but say in case you lose it, like I did, I can't find my little cable for this anymore. But these USB-C cables are everywhere. You can find this anywhere. Or maybe just me, I just don't know exactly where to find it, and everybody else knows exactly where to find the little cables for these. All right, so but this is the design, and according to how they feel, I would say that the Vault feels actually more sturdy and more premium to the touch, and all the knobs feel a little bit more premium than the Scarlett. The Scarlett feels a little bit more cheaper, but I mean, it is better than it was in the past, and it is an upgrade from what it was in the past. So I mean, you can't really complain too much with the Scarlett, to be honest, but it's decent. Next, one thing you're probably noticing, you know, when you're spending $200 on these interfaces, one of these only have one input. You know what I'm saying? As you can see, the Vault only has one input. The Scarlett has two inputs. So if you're someone who really needs more than one input, definitely go with the Scarlett. You know, if you prefer the preamp sound on the Vault as you're hearing right now, go with the Vault. So as far as inputs, that's really up to you. I can't really tell you which one is better than the other as far as input. Next, let's talk about the dynamic range. The dynamic range on the inputs of the microphones is 116 on the Scarlett, and it is 112 on the Vault. Let me know if you guys can tell a difference or not when I'm switching between the two. I'll be switching back to the Scarlett in a few. Next, let's talk about the headphone output. Now, if you're someone who's really thinking about you need a really good headphone output with this thing, you want the best sound possible, or you're thinking about getting into mixing and mastering, definitely go with the Scarlett 2i2. The Vault has 110 dB of dynamic range on the headphone output, and the Scarlett only has 112 dB of dynamic range, which means this has more. I can personally tell a difference. You know, when I'm listening to both of these side by side, I can definitely tell that the Scarlett has a little bit more volume and a little bit more frequencies in the headphone output. And I could definitely tell that with the Vault, it kind of feels like it almost has compression on the headphone output. I don't know, it's weird when you compare it next to each other. By itself, the Vault sounds fine. But you know, when you take it and compare it with the Scarlett, it almost sounds like the Vault has a compressor on the headphone output. Next, let's talk about the monitor output. Now, what was marketed on the Scarlett about the 120 dB of dynamic range, that was the monitor output. You know, for the Vault, you're gonna get 110 dB of dynamic range, which personally, I can definitely tell the difference for sure. I felt like it was almost night and day on the headphone output. Like, I can tell that the Scarlett just had way more volume and frequencies, especially in the low end. Kicks were able to jump out more, frequencies were able to just punch through a little bit more on the monitor output. And, you know, honestly, I just felt like it was almost like taking a blanket off the speakers, you know what I'm saying, when switching between the two. As far as like my opinion on which one I think is better, I think the Vault does fall a little bit flat on certain areas, but I think the preamp is pretty great, you know what I'm saying, on the Vault. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me know what you guys think between the two, which one you think. Personally, I think the preamps sound better on the Vault than on the Scarlett, but I think for the masses and for beginners, definitely go with the Scarlett 2i2, because, you know, jumping into this thing, if you're just having a microphone, or you just get the Scarlett Studio, you know, you can plug this thing in and hit the auto gain, and it'll definitely give you a good volume to, you know, start off and begin recording your favorites, your songs and stuff like that. So, you know, I think this is really better for beginners, you know, because you have different options like the safe stuff and the auto gain versus like this right here. You have less dynamic range on so many other areas, which is my personal opinion. I think the Vault sounds better on the preamp. And the reason I think it sounds better is because I'm able to drive the preamps a little bit harder on the Vault. Like when I'm getting closer to red line, it doesn't sound as bad versus like on the Scarlett, if I'm getting closer to red line, that distortion starts picking up really fast. That's the only reason why I recommend, if you're using the Scarlett, definitely get a separate pop filter that'll give you some distance, because if you get too close to your microphones or you get too close to the preamp. I tried this interface with the U87, the Neumann U87, and even if I got too close to it or I just got around it in certain areas, I got distortion here and there, and I never heard that with the Neumann in, you know, in a different interface. So, you know, these preamps, you know, you got to be really, really careful with it, and which is why I think they added that auto gain feature, is so it can automatically turn you down so you don't get that distortion. When I'm using hardware, you know, I have the opportunity to hit levels much harder and get a cleaner sound, which I can't really do with the Scarlett, you know, I got to kind of turn it down a little bit. As you can see, you know, I'm probably getting distorted here and there now. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the vault sound right now. Before I switch over to the vault sound, we have these other options over here, like, you know, the air, and I can engage it right now. And there's other air buttons as well, like if you engage it in the software. There's 3 different air modes that you could turn on, but basically, as you can see, it gives you a little bit of air and presence. This autosave button is just going to count down to see which auto gain should it give me, and it basically should just turn all the way down because this is all the way loud. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of scared, to be honest. So basically, now this is the auto gain that it thinks I should be at. Let me go ahead and turn this all the way down because, oh yeah, there. So it automatically felt that I should have this all the way down. Then you have your save button right here. As you can see, when I press it down, the save button did kind of help with the distortion. And maybe that was my problem that I was looking for. Mic check 1 2. It basically turns it down by a whole lot. For beginners, I feel like that's really great for them, you know, because they can basically keep turning this thing down more and more and more so you don't get that distortion. But let's go ahead and switch over to the vault. All right, so now we have the Universal Audio Vault here, clean, nothing else. I think earlier I had some settings up here, but now, you know, as you can see, it's very clean right now, and we're going to engage these settings just like I did with the Scarlett. I don't feel like I get as much distortion, you know, like I did with the Scarlett with their preamps. So let's go ahead and engage their Ventures button. So now we have their Ventures button. You know what I'm saying? Let me know if you notice a difference or not. Is this better than the Scarlett's safe or air button? Mic check 1 2, turning it off, turning it back on. Now you can hear it again, and I think it sounds pretty great. I feel like I can just get much louder levels. You get 112 dB of dynamic range on the microphone input on the Vault versus 116 on the Scarlett. But I think the Vault sounds better. Let me know what you guys think. I think both of these are great preamps. You're gonna have a great time regardless of which audio interface you choose. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. They both offer softwares. They both offer opportunities to help you going on your iPad or your MacBook or your computer, your phone, if you want to get online and go on to TikTok or Twitter or something like that and have crispy audio. Let me know in the comments which audio interface you think is worth $199. Or let me know in the comments if you think you shouldn't even spend your money on these interfaces. You should spend your money on a different. Let me know in the comments. Make sure you guys add me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Threads. Make sure you guys add me on Threads. You guys stay safe. Peace.